Hey there, tech fans. Rick here again with a full review of the Orei UHD12-EXB400-K HDMI splitter and extender kit. This product makes it incredibly easy for you to share all of your HDMI media content with two remote locations at the same time, up to 400 feet away, and the only connection you'll need is a single Cat6 or Cat7 LAN cable between the primary and secondary sites. The product fully supports 4K ultra high definition media content and is both HDMI 2.0B as well as HDCP 2.2 compliant, so you know it's going to work fine with all of your modern media gear. The transmitter module provides local loopback functionality, which allows you to enjoy the content here while you're simultaneously sharing it with your remote locations. And both the transmitter module and the receiver modules feature audio extraction capabilities, which will digitally separate the audio component from that HDMI media stream you're sending there and allow you to pass that audio through an analog connection to a local soundbar or a home stereo for better quality audio. The kit also includes infrared blasters for both of the remote locations that will collect up the remote control signals from those locations and pass those back digitally over the same LAN cable to the primary location where they're rebroadcast so you can remotely control the content you're watching. And finally, this product uses the very latest in power over cable technology, which means a single power supply is all you'll need to operate the entire solution because the power required for the remote receivers is sent over that same LAN cable. Now, as part of this review, I'd like to start with a quick unboxing just to show you everything that's included with the kit, and then I'll take a closer look at the transmitter module and the receiver module and explain the connections and indicators so you understand exactly how to use it, and then I'll come back one more time and point out a few things that I really like about this product that you can use to compare it to other solutions you may be considering. So let's get started with the unboxing. When you first pop open the box, you'll find a single transmitter module and two remote receiver modules. This is at the primary site. These are located at the remote locations where you'd like to enjoy the content. You'll find a single 24 volt 1.5 amp DC power supply. You can plug this into a wall outlet and it plugs directly into the back of the transmitter. And again, all the power required for the remote receivers is sent over that same LAN cable. You'll find two sets of 3 infrared blasters, and they're different sizes. There's a larger one right here, that's the receiver, and that plugs into both of the receiver modules, and a smaller one, that's the transmitter, which plugs into the transmitter module, and you can use those to transfer the remote control signals from each of the remote locations back to the primary site. You'll find a set of brackets you can use to mount the receivers up off the ground and out of the way, a bracketing kit for the transmitter to do exactly the same, and you'll find some RS-232 connection blocks you can use to actually transfer RS-232 control signals between your two locations. Also included with the kit is a warranty card and a full instruction manual that lists connection diagrams, specifications, and other important details you'll need to understand about the solution in order to use it correctly. Now, if you stay tuned next, I'll take a closer look at both of the modules, and then I'll point out the things that I really like about this kit that you can use to separate it from other products you may be considering. Inside the kit, you'll find a single sender module and 2 remote receiver modules. All 3 of these feature full metal enclosures, which make them incredibly durable, and it really helps to cut down outside interference from causing any issues with the electronics inside. Let's start with the sender module. On either side of the cabinet, you'll find ventilation slots that are designed to let any heat that develops during operation escape and keep the electronics inside at a very comfortable temperature. You'll also find mounting holes on both sides that can be used with the included bracketing kit to mount this module up off the ground and out of the way. On the front of the module, you'll find several indicators. Starting on the left is a power indicator. The minute you add power to the module, it immediately starts an internal power on self-test, and once it passes that test, it'll light that LED letting you know the module's ready to use. To the right of that is an input indicator. When you connect this up to the media device that you'd like to share the content from with your 2 remote locations, that connection is checked. Once it's been verified, the input indicator comes on, letting you know you have a solid HDMI connection to your media device. To the right of that is a loop indicator. This product provides local loopback functionality, which allows you to enjoy the content here while you're simultaneously sharing it with your 2 remote locations. And I'll show you where that connection is on the back. But if you choose to use that feature, once you connect the monitor up here at the primary site, that connection is checked. Once it's been verified, the loop indicator will come on, letting you know you have a solid HDMI connection to your monitor. To the right of that are 2 more output indicators, 1 and 2. When you connect this up over a LAN cable to your remote receivers, that connection is checked as well, and these indicators will come on letting you know you have a solid network connection to your remote locations. So under normal operation, the power indicator will be on, the input indicator will be on, one or both of the output indicators will be on depending on how many remote locations you have, and the loop indicator will be on if you're using the local loopback functionality. On the rear of the modules where you'll make all your connections, starting in the upper left, you'll find a RS-232 connection. This module can send RS-232 control signals back and forth between the primary and secondary locations, and if you'd like to use that feature, you can use the connection block that's included with the kit to make your connection right there. To the right of that are two infrared blaster ports labeled in and out. You'll use the smaller infrared blaster and plug it into the infrared out port, and that'll rebroadcast the signals from your remote locations. To the right of that are two audio output connections. This product provides audio extraction capabilities, which will essentially separate the audio from the media stream you're sharing at the remote location and allow you to pass that along to a soundbar or a home stereo for better quality audio. And here's where you'll make those connections. And you have a choice between coaxial or direct connection to your stereo. To the right of that is a grounding lug and an on-off switch you can use to turn the unit on and off. On the bottom left, you'll find a bank of EDID switches, and those are used to adjust the frame rate and resolution and the audio component for the media content you're sharing, and they're fully explained in the manual. To the right of that are two full-sized HDMI ports. The first one is labeled in. That connects to the media device you'd like to share the content from with your remote locations. To the right of that is the loop out port, and that's where you'll connect the local monitor to enjoy the content here at the primary site if you choose to use that feature. To the right of that are two full-size LAN ports labeled 1 and 2. These connect to your remote location. So you use a Cat6 or Cat7 cable, plug one end in here, the other end into the remote receiver, and that allows for two remote locations. And finally, to the right of that is a DC input port, and that's where you'll plug in the power supply that's included. Simply plug that into a standard wall outlet. The other end of the cable has a barrel connection on it, which plugs in right there, and you can finger tighten the collar. Now we'll take a look at the remote receiver. Again, metal enclosure, ventilation slots at either side to keep the electronics cool. On the front of the unit, you'll find a single LED on the left. That's a power indicator. This unit uses power over cable technology, so you don't need a power supply at the remote location. Once you plug in a power supply at the primary site and make a LAN connection to these remote receivers, all the power required to run this module is sent over that LAN cable. So the minute power is applied here, it runs a power on self-test internally. Once it passes that, this LED will come on, letting you know you have a solid connection back to the transmitter and it's passed its test. To the right of that is a service port. It's a micro USB port that's used for updating firmware. So if new firmware comes out and you'd like to download it to the module, simply connect this to your computer with a micro USB cable, move the firmware file over to this product, and update the firmware. On the bottom of the unit, you'll find more ventilation, as well as mounting holes that can be used with the bracketing kit for the remote receivers to mount these up off the ground. On the rear of the unit, starting on the left, you'll find a DC input port, and again, this system uses power over cable. You won't need to connect anything there. To the right of that is a LAN port, and that's where the other end of the Cat6 or Cat7 cable plugs in from the transmitter. To the right of that is an HDMI output port, and that's where you'll connect your monitor. This also provides audio extraction. It'll be analog left and right through this 3.5mm port. If you'd like to use a soundbar or home stereo at the remote location, you can make that audio output connection right there. There are two more infrared blaster ports labeled IR in and IR out. In the case of these remote locations, you'll use the larger module and plug it into the infrared in, and that'll pick up the signals from your remote control, send those back to the primary site over the same LAN connection so you can remotely control the content you're watching. And finally, an RS-232 connection block. As I mentioned, you can send RS-232 connection signals between the two sites, and that's where you make the connection if you'd like to use that feature. And that's pretty much it for the two modules. I hope that closer look was helpful. Now here are a few really important things to keep in mind when you're comparing the Orei UHD12-EXB400-K with other products you may be considering. The first thing I'd like to point out is that this single product is really two products combined into one. It's an HDMI splitter, which will send the same HDMI media stream as an input to two output displays at the same time. But it's also an HDMI extender, which means both of those output displays can be located up to 400 feet away from the primary site, and the only connection you'll need between the locations is a Cat6 or a Cat7 cable. The product also supports 4K ultra-high definition media content at up to 60 frames a second, which is a really high resolution. A lot of the kits on the market may only support 1080p content or 720p content, which means the resolution at both of your remote locations is going to be greatly reduced. The product is also HDMI 2.0b and HDCP 2.2 compliant, and the reason that's important is because the HDMI standard has gone through a lot of changes in recent years, a lot of new features have been introduced, so knowing I'm on one of the latest versions of HDMI means I can take advantage of all those advanced features. The HDCP certification is important as well because that controls copy protection, so knowing I'm on a later version of HDCP means I can play all of my copy protected files. Those are important features that you should compare to other products. Another benefit is the audio extraction capabilities of both the primary and secondary locations because, let's be honest, stereo speakers in most of the modern TVs are terrible. So knowing that the audio can be extracted from the media stream and then I can pass that along simply through an analog cable to a home stereo or a soundbar for better quality audio really enhances my listening experience. The transmitter module provides local loopback functionality, which again is different than a lot of other kits on the market. The reason that's important is it allows me to watch the content here while I'm simultaneously sharing it with my remote locations. The infrared blasters are important because they provide complete remote control from each of my remote locations by collecting up the remote control signals and sending those back over the same LAN cable to be rebroadcast so I can actually control the content I'm watching. And then finally, the power over cable capabilities of this product are important as well because it greatly simplifies your wiring, but it also allows you to use a single power supply at the primary location to cover all of the power needs for the entire solution because the power required for the remote receivers is sent over that same LAN cable. So it just simplifies everything. It's an incredibly easy kit to use. With a few simple connections, you can be up and running in no time, and it just works really, really well. So hopefully you found this review helpful. I've enjoyed talking about it. And until next time, as always, stay nerdy.